In the studio with me, the Acting Chief Commissioner, Ken Lowe. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Any regrets about Friday?
No, Neil, certainly from what I saw, and I spent most of Friday in our operations centre watching the live video into that centre. I was very proud of the way our 400 people worked. It was extremely difficult. It was a very, very long day for them, and what I saw was a very well-trained, very well-disciplined group of people that did exactly what they were trying to do.
Was there a change of tactics here compared to what we might have seen over the past few years?
Not at all. This group, the Occupy Melbourne group, we've had them in the city now for a week or so. We've facilitated demonstrations on a daily basis with them. When their leaders spoke to our leaders, we arranged peaceful demonstrations where they expressed their view. Unfortunately, what changed on Friday is we were given some undertakings. Those undertakings changed, and I sensed a group of people that were hell-bent on having a blue with the coppers, and that's exactly what happened. We know that there was a group of people that simply wanted this for their own reasons.
What were the undertakings they gave that were broken?
There was undertakings that we would give them plenty of notice about when we would be moving in. On Thursday, one of our inspectors spoke to them and gave them that very undertaking. We understood that if they were given that notice that they would leave peacefully. So 7 o'clock Friday morning, the council read a notice for them asking them to leave. For 2 hours following that, council workers walked around the group and gave them leaflets explaining their obligations. We gave them another warning at about 10:30. We gave them another warning at midday, and we were confronted with about 150 people who had their arms linked, were very abusive towards the police, and was very, very clear that there was only one way that we could enforce the law and stop these people from trespassing, and that was to do exactly what we did. Again, our members were briefed very clearly about their rights in relation to violence, the need for violence and excessive force. But when you've got 100-odd people with their arms linked, there will be a level of force to separate them. That occurred. Unfortunately, there were some minor injuries on both police and some protesters. That's really unfortunate, and it was really unfortunate, some of the pictures. But certainly all the advice I'm getting, all the pictures I'm seeing, I'm very, very comfortable with the way our members acted on the day.
Did some of the people move out? You're saying there's only a group of troublemakers?
Yeah. So, again, on Thursday night, there was a concern amongst the group that we would be coming through at 5 o'clock in the morning and not giving anyone any notice. We assured them that wasn't the case, and there was a significant number that did go of their own accord, which was great. The other worrying thing about the day, though, Neil, was as we were trying to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this, there was obviously some stuff going across the Twitter and the like, and we were getting a large group of people outside the square. So we were faced with a situation where we had a group of aggressive protesters inside the event. A group of protesters inside the square. We had swelling numbers outside. We then had to pull in a lot of police from right across Melbourne to try and address this. So it was a long and difficult day. I would hate to see those sort of pictures occurring every day in Melbourne. It's not good for Melbourne. It's not good for the community. But I just need to reinforce the fact that these people have been in the city for 5 days. When the relationship with police was good, when we worked together, they made their point. We kept people safe, and I would encourage them over the next few days that unless we can get this right, we can work well together. We can let them make their point, but there's no place for violence.
Okay, let's talk about the next few days. There's suggestions today that they may target the Queen, the Royal Tour. Does that concern you?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. So we're doing some planning now, and again, we'll be in contact with the organisers. Very clearly, it's very, very important that we get on the same page. We'll facilitate their demonstration. We'll let that occur, but that can occur if we work well together. We don't want people hurt. We don't want conflict with police or protesters, but they need to talk to us. They need to be honest and open with us, and we can get this done together if need be.
You must feel a little different going into negotiations with them now, though. If you say that they made agreements which they breached, how can you trust them?
Well, that's going to be the tricky part for us. But we'll just hopefully the organisers understand that what happened on Friday was not good for them, it was not good for the community, it was not good for police. So it just doesn't make any sense to be having those sort of conflicts, unless, of course, there is a small group there that just clearly want that sort of conflict for their own ends.
Do you think there is?
I sense there is.
Do you know who they are?
Look, we've got a fair idea of most of the people involved.
I imagine you have done... what's the word we use? Undercover work on them?
Look, we talk to a lot of these groups. We get intelligence from a whole host of areas. There's many of these people in the group on Friday and the week leading up, pretty familiar faces to us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From what? Other demonstrations?
BDS, the anti-Jewish demonstrations, there's clearly a group involved in that. Some of the socialist alliance people, again. So look, these are people that exercise their democratic right to take to the streets. So I've got no problems with that.
No, I wonder if some naive people are caught in the middle of it, though. I mean, there's a lot of people saying we're just the average person. We went along to support it. Yeah, and
look, I'm sure there is a piece of that. But again, that's on Friday in particular. That's why we were very, very keen to give everyone every opportunity to leave, give them a absolute understanding of what would occur if we needed to move them on.
So if they go to Treasury Gardens, will they be allowed to camp there?
Neil, this is really, this will be council land. They'll make the decision about whether people can camp or not. If people's right, if it's made very clear to them they can't camp there, and we'll have the conversations with council about how we handle it. But certainly within the media, I think Mr Doyle's made it pretty clear that that's not likely to occur.
So you only actually get involved if the council calls you in?
That's it.
It's not your decision?
Yeah. So what we had on Friday was on a grander scale, but no different, Neil, if you had someone in your backyard and you wanted them out. So we'd come in and enforce the law.
Did you oversee the operation? You said you were at the operations room.
Steve Fontana was the operations commander, but I spent most of the day in the operations centre just watching the video, getting updates and the like. So this was a big event for Melbourne. We haven't seen it for a long, long time, but as I say, it was... it was a pretty impressive effort by many of our people. Did
you feel it was dangerous when this extra crowd turned up?
Look, the problem that I was worried about was actually just stopping the city completely. Like, there's millions of people come into the city every day. We had these people camped in the middle of the street. We had these people trying to stop trams. We had surges of these people to try to get back into the city square. So our people were at risk. The demonstrators were at risk, and unfortunately, even innocent bystanders, because we had just pedestrians mingled with this group. It was volatile. There was a group absolutely focused on creating angst and creating tension with police. So it was very difficult.
It was suggested, I read at the weekend, that there were various unpleasant things found within the camp, like weapons of some sort. Is that accurate?
Yeah, look, there was... excuse me, there was no doubt there was knives, there was some volatile liquids, but my people are now telling me that was more connected with the campsites rather than anything else, anything more sinister than that. Though having said that, we've had 6 police vehicles with their tyres slashed, so there is cause for concern, obviously, when we're coming hand to hand with people we're not quite sure about what they're carrying. But certainly, I don't want to give the impression that there was a group of people in there hell bent on using weapons or the like, because that's certainly not what we saw.
Hello, Ian. Yes, Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, g'day, guys. I just want to ask. I read in like I say, The Age online over the weekend, that the police, when they were forced, or they were met with urine and feces, I think it was reported, that they had to clean up from the camp. Is that correct?
Ian, look, I think there was a bit of that within the campsite, but I've certainly had no feedback that was used in any way against police, as we've seen in previous demonstrations.
Is it true, as alleged, that some of the officers took the ID numbers off?
No, not true. We did have some members without name badges on, Neil, but this was a volatile situation. We were going hand on hand with some people. At times to time the badges came off, there's no doubt about that. We had some inclement weather too, so some of our people put raincoats on, but we've got an enormous amount of video, both our own and other video in relation to this event, so I've got no doubt that there will be complaints come, so I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to cover off that most of that.
Did the police use what was being called pressure point tactics or chokeholds?
Certainly that issue was raised on Friday by a particular reporter, but we actually went back to some video. The reporter had a photograph of this policeman grabbing a demonstrator around the throat. We went back to the video and we were very comfortable with the fact that this was a moment in time that was clearly not a chokehold. It was really just grappling with this demonstrator. So no, we don't use chokeholds and we wouldn't condone them.
Carol, yes, Carol?
Yes, looking at the pictures and listening to it at the time, it seemed to me that there was excessive force and use of pressure points as well. Why can't they be removed without using what looks like very dangerous as well as painful pressure points? It does look like that's what was going on.
Were pressure point tactics used?
No, they weren't, Carol. But I just make the point, when you've got 150-odd people linked arm in arm, refusing to move, police just can't walk up to these people and say, please leave. We'd been doing that for the last 5 hours. These people were chanting aggressively. They had made it very, very clear they weren't going to move. We had an obligation under the law to move them. There was always going to be a level of force, and the people involved were very clear about that. Our members understood that, and yes, I do agree that the photos and the vision does look terrible. But the fact is that people refuse to move, linked arms. A degree of force will need to be used.
The Occupy Melbourne people say there are 43 documented cases of violence, including against children, which they will take to the Ombudsman.
Yeah, I suspect that they mean the Office of Police Integrity. Look, there's very known processes to make complaints against police. People are entitled to do that. We were aware prior to the operation that this would probably occur, so we have taken lots of video of everything from briefings to warnings to arrests and the like. So we're hopeful that will help the OPI or ESD or whoever may do an investigation come to the conclusions they need to come to.
It looks like we'll have either hearings in the courts or the OPI or else for some time out of this.
May well be. I suspect there may well be some civil action proposed as well. So we'll just work our way through it. As I say, we believe we've taken every precaution necessary to capture the images, capture what we did and why we did it. So we'll just work our way through those.
This will be the most, I suppose, most violent demonstration in Melbourne for a long time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember pictures like this for some time, but again, Neil, we have demonstrations probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a weekend, and very, very rarely do they end up like this. We're very good at this. On Friday, our very best forward commanders were involved. Our very best communicators groups were involved, and every other day of the week, this works and works well. It didn't on Friday.
They've got a General Assembly next Tuesday at the State Library. I assume you'll be out in force?
We'll have some presence there, obviously, but again, this is, I encourage any of the organisers or anyone involved with the organisers to share their tactics with police will facilitate any demonstration as long as people aren't hurt and as long as there's not undue disruption to the city. So we can get this done together, but if people decide to do it unilaterally or deceive us in any way, it does make it very, very difficult.
And I assume you've already got a big operation underway for the Queen's visit.
Got an operation underway, yes, for the Queen. So, we'll just tie this into our thinking now, obviously.
Okay, we'd better wrap it up there. Thank you very much. I just want to ask you another thing quickly, if I may. The industrial action going on by the officers at the moment,
Yep.
Is that starting to cause you any trouble? Because there must be a lot of fines not being collected.
Look, let me just say, Neil, that things are moving in a positive direction in relation to the EB, so we'll just see where that goes in the next little while.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Neil.
Acting Chief Commissioner, Victoria Police, Ken Lay.